So thank you everyone for coming out and spending some time with us as we share with you some very exciting information about the Avalon Promenade and Gateway. My name is Hugo Cisneros. I'm a civil engineer with the Port of Los Angeles, and I'm the project manager for the Avalon Promenade and Gateway. Again, thank you for taking time out of your evening and joining us tonight. I do want to start off by just acknowledging we have Commissioner Arian and Commissioner Perosi with us tonight. And I also want to get started by calling up Commissioner Lucia Moreno Linares to do some opening remarks. Commissioner.
Good evening, everyone. I'd just like to welcome you and thank you for taking the time to be here, to give your input, to learn, to understand where we are in this process, this very important process that we've been working on for so long. I hope that you are pleased with what will be presented tonight, but more importantly, I hope that you are vocal with what will be presented tonight and really give your input, your stamp of approval with what you like, and let us know what you don't like. And not that we're making promises about what we can and can't change, but so that we can take everything into account. I hope that this is a very productive meeting, one of many, and once again, I appreciate you taking the time to be here. Muy buenas noches, muchas gracias por tomar el tiempo y darnos su tiempo para estar aquí, aprender y ver qué es lo que se va a proponer hoy, qué es lo que después de, siendo esta nuestra tercera reunión, cómo se ha tomado en cuenta las necesidades, lo que se puede hacer. Espero que queden contentos con lo que se va a mostrar hoy, pero si no están contentos, si hay algo que todavía se puede mejorar, también muy importante que nos lo deje saber. Y lo que sí le gusta, lo que sí salió bien, déjenoslo saber también. Así el equipo que está trabajando en este proyecto puede tomar mejor en cuenta todas las opiniones de los aquí presentes. Nosotros, los aquí presentes, estamos hablando por el resto de la comunidad, por todas las personas que no están aquí presentes. Es muy importante dar esa opinión, pensar críticamente y dejarnos saber lo que piensa. Every one of us here today represents the rest of the community who is not here. And so your opinion counts for a lot of other people's opinions. So it's really important that we get to hear what you think. Thank you very much again for taking the time to be here, and I hope that this is a very productive meeting. Muchas gracias. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. So tonight, what we'll be doing is briefly going over what outreach we've done in the past. We took all the feedback and we developed these concepts that we're going to be sharing with you tonight. And then we're going to talk about the preferred alternative. In particular, we'll talk about the pedestrian bridge, the entry plaza, and the park features. There's a lot of park features that we are using to incorporate a lot of the feedback we got. You know, there's a lot of things that we heard, and we're trying to really accomplish and meet many of the goals that the community and the public has set forth for this project. So just to set the table, the Wilmington Waterfront Development Program is a large plan with many large components. Back in 2006, 2007, up to 2009, there was a big outreach effort. Many of you might have been involved at that time, and we appreciate your involvement then. And this master plan and the environmental impact report were developed with a large vision. We are using a phased implementation to get these projects developed and get them constructed. The first one is the Wilmington Waterfront Park. Many of you are very familiar with that. Next, we have the Wilmington Waterfront Promenade, which is around the area here, Banning's Landing. It's the project that's in blue there toward the bottom. And then the project we'll be talking about tonight, the Avalon Promenade and Gateway, which is the project outlined in yellow. And then we have future plans for commercial development, and we'll see what other options we have moving forward after these two projects that are moving forward right now. Again, this project, the Avalon Promenade and Gateway, has these 5 major elements that we were asking for input in the first 2 meetings. Just briefly, the entry plaza is that intersection of Harry Bridges Boulevard and Avalon that kind of symbolizes visitors in the community that you have reached the Wilmington Waterfront. Then we have parking. Parking is a big issue, so we received a lot of feedback, and I think we have some good solutions that we'll share with you tonight. The Avalon Promenade itself, that walkway that takes you from that intersection over the pedestrian bridge into the Wilmington Waterfront. We have a large open space, which is the green area you see up there, about 12 acres. We had a lot of feedback, and we'll be sharing that as well. And then, of course, the pedestrian bridge. The first public design workshop was held on June 6th. The purpose of that meeting was to share the major components of the project. So those 5 elements that I showed in the previous slide, we went into depth into what those elements can be. And then, in addition to share that, we wanted to get feedback. So we had these workshop groups for many of you that attended that presentation and that workshop. We broke up into groups. We had you write down your ideas, what you like, what you don't like. And then we had a survey at the end of that presentation to get feedback. We were successful in collecting a total of 559 surveys. The breakdown is kind of what you see up there, 82 of the hard copy and 477 of the online surveys. In addition to the survey, we received about over 200 individual comments, and we're using that as we develop our concepts. And just briefly, this was the actual survey questionnaire that we used. And just to remind everybody, the kind of the elements that we talked about, the entry plaza. And if you recall, there were four types of characteristics that we were presenting. And again, we used photos of existing elements just to kind of get your ideas and your thoughts going as to what can be developed specifically for this project. So we just use these photos to kind of get you thinking about what can be. We asked about preference for use of the open space. You want active space, passive space. We presented 5 different characteristics for the pedestrian bridge. And they varied from an arch bridge to a cable stay bridge, truss bridge, and a garden bridge. So there was a lot of feedback we received on the bridges, so we were very happy to hear that. Again, we got feedback about parking, about commercial development, and about the landscape. At the second meeting, which was held on December 5th, we presented the results from that first meeting. In addition to that, we then came back and asked for more feedback. In particular, we wanted feedback on the entry plaza and the pedestrian bridge. Those are 2 major elements, and we wanted to make sure that we really touched on what it was that the community and the public would like for those 2 elements. Again, we used the online questionnaire as well as the hard copies. The feedback period for this project was from December 5th to January 12th. And again, we got 441 surveys submitted, which is a great number, over 180 comments for this workshop. And this was the questionnaire for the second meeting. At this point, we had developed specific or preliminary concepts that would be specific for this project. So in the first meeting, we just showed photos of existing elements just to get your mind going and your thoughts going. For this presentation, we had developed concepts that were more specific that would flow with the rest of this development and fit more specifically to this project. So we asked for feedback on the entry plaza, which was the whimsical, this one if you recall, and the sculpted bridge, which we envisioned this sundial as that entry plaza. And then for the pedestrian bridge, the 2 bridges that received the most favorable feedback from the first meeting were the arch bridge and the garden bridge. So again, we developed specific preliminary concepts for this project, and again, we asked for feedback. The results of the second questionnaire are overwhelmingly the sculpted sundial received more votes as their preferred alternative, with 29% for the whimsical. And for the pedestrian bridge, we have the arch bridge receiving the most votes, with 62% of the votes going to the arch bridge and 38% going to the garden bridge. So that was the specific feedback from the second workshop. Again, we had a lot of feedback from the first workshop, and in the past couple of months, we've been developing, along with our architectural and design team, to develop an overall plan which incorporates all this feedback. And now, this is the big reveal. We're very excited to show you this. This is our plan that we are developing for the Avalon Promenade and Gateway. We're very excited. There's a lot of features that we're going to go over tonight. There's a lot of components that we've tried to incorporate as a direct result to the feedback you've given us, so thank you very much for all that feedback. We're working hard to get as much of that into this plan. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn it over to Noel Shamble. He is with LIN International. He will walk us through the different components and share some of the ideas and the thinking that went into developing this plan. Noel, thank you.
Thank you very much. Hi, everyone. Great to see you all again. I'm really excited to pick up the conversation where we left off last time and show you some of the concepts and the details that we have here in these concepts. As Hugo mentioned, we kind of can break things down into sort of three categories for this project. We have the entry plaza, we have the bridge, and then we have the park landscape. So I'm going to go through each of those features and talk about them in detail, and show you a few things that you saw in the last couple meetings and a few things that we've worked out since then. So as we dig into things, we'll start off on the entry plaza, which is at the north end of the site. And as was mentioned, the sundial is the preferred alternative here based on your voting. This is a really nice, striking landmark. It's going to be tall and visible to the eye from a distance, but yet it's not going to be overbearing on the landscape or on the horizon. It's a really, really exciting beacon for the project. You know, a sundial is very rooted in time and in place. The exact angle of that gnomon, or the arm of that sundial, is of course matched to the latitude and longitude of the specifics of Wilmington. And then on the landscape, the shadow of the gnomon will trace out the time of day as it goes through the seasons and through the day. So this will be a space that, in its essence, is really simple, but it's actually constantly changing, and it's always going to be active. So what better sort of symbol for the meeting point of this park space? You can see the form is a pretty striking contemporary type shape, but again, it's a function that is really rooted in history, which is a pretty apt metaphor for the community of Wilmington, both rooted in history, but also very progressive and forward-thinking. So it's in a nice setting with some gentle seating around the outside. Again, we have those markers indicating the time of day around the bottom, and then, of course, at nighttime, we'd like to activate this space as well, so we'd put lights embedded in the paving that would still tick off the time of night or evening, as it might be. And here's a view. You can see this would be looking south into the park with that Avalon walkway in the background there. So the next element we'll jump to is the other big item, which is on the other end, bookending the other end of the site, is the arch bridge. So this carries you from our project site over to the Wilmington Waterfront, out to the water. So it's tying our project to the adjacent projects. And so here's a view from the water, basically looking back towards our park. You can see we have that nice arch going down the middle of the pathway, two cantilevered walkways on either side, both nice and wide, so bikes and people aren't bumping into each other or anything like that. Really grand and generous space. We've carried the garden concept of the park space from across the bridge down the middle, so you kind of get that continuation from one park to the bridge to the other. The greenery is coming with you on that journey as you go across the bridge. Embedded within that are some nice benches, providing little spots to pause, maybe take in the view from there, or just enjoy the shade of the plants as you go. And then from within the park, this is a view, an overlook looking back at the bridge. There's also some great vantage points of the bridge from within the park. Here you can see the iconic sort of striking W symbol of the bridge. W for Wilmington, of course. There's a better view. You'll see it real good in this next one. Yeah, right. So this is a view. The only real view you'd get from underneath the bridge is on the adjacent park property, on the waterfront property. As you're walking to that park, there's a little pathway that goes under this side of the park, so that this side of the bridge. So this would be a view looking back. You can see in the distance back there in the middle is that overlook that I was just touching on. We'll talk about that a little bit more later. But this is basically our park back here, and then the bridge soaring over the railroad tracks above. And here's another view. Basically that same perspective looking back at our park, but a more aerial view. You can see the park spaces stretching out beyond. And there you go, there's your nice Wilmington W. Of course in yellow, matching all of your t-shirts. But this lighting scheme could be something that's really programmable and customizable, so it could change, on 4th of July, it could be red, white, and blue. St. Patrick's Day, it could be green, whatever you want it to be. So the possibilities are endless. We'll start to dig into the landscape, the park itself, some specifics of that. Going into the park, a park space is a pedestrian space, so it's important to look at the scheme of the park as a holistic continuation of the community. So we first kind of look at what pedestrian scale things are in the community surrounding the park, and of course looking at what are kind of the walking radiuses is the first place to start. So you kind of have these concentric circles moving out from the park, the 5-minute walking zone, 10-minute walking. And you can see easily within 15 minutes of walking, there's a lot of residential neighborhoods. Maybe some of you are even living there. And so this, is not only a destination for people to come from far away, but could also be someone's, impromptu front yard, for example. So it really needs to have a lot of different characteristics, and we tried to incorporate a lot of those as well. So on the park plan, I don't know if you can see with the lights this way, but there's yellow dots. Yeah, there you go. So the yellow dots trace all the pedestrian pathways in the park. Those are all ADA accessible pathways. That means nothing is too steep that a wheelchair can't go up, nor is it so steep that a bike would get going excessively fast or anything like that. There's wide pathways for kind of main circulation routes here through the middle that carry you from one place to the next. And then there's smaller pathways that are multi-purpose trails or meandering pathways for moments of calm or maybe moving slower or stopping to pause and take a look. But all those pathways are ADA accessible. And along the lines of accessibility, there's also, as designated in red, ADA accessible parking, both at the front and at the back of the park space. Now going up a speed and looking at things in terms of biking in the area, we want to integrate this into the larger bike system of the community. And so here's kind of a rough map of the existing bike routes as they come in, and obviously filtering off of Avalon Boulevard and continuing down to the waterfront is the main goal of this project. And so you can see we do that here with the nice wide promenade is the main circulation route. That would be your classic point A to point B type thing. But then we also have this secondary pathway, which wiggles and meanders nicely to make a circuitous route through the park, and that's going to be your more casual multi-purpose loop. So that would be, if you want to go for a jog all within the park, go for a bike ride with your kids in a safe place that's out of the main traffic of everyone else, this would be the place to do it. So really, multi-purpose is multi-purpose, and it incorporates a lot of things. In terms of vehicular access, we are on Harry Bridges Boulevard, so it'll be very visible to vehicular traffic, but the main access for drop-off and parking will be off of Broad Avenue. So we have, based on your input, we've incorporated parking both at the front of the site and at the back of the site. So you can park up on the north end if you want to maybe take part in some, visiting the sundial, visiting the sundial, or playing on the lawn or things like that. But maybe if you want to just go straight over the pedestrian bridge out to the water. You can park deeper into the park at the secondary parking space. Now, one of the key features in the project is this the Wilmington History Walk. That's based on feedback from you when we were talking about how to represent the history of your community. We got these great ideas and input. So this is a walkway that continues the axis of Avalon Boulevard and straight into the park through the sundial. And it really is going to be the place where we can tell the story of Wilmington. And Wilmington has a lot of history, so it'll cover everything from early settlement all the way through to the heyday of Avalon Boulevard, and hopefully on into the future. And the main way we intend to do that is through markers on the landscape, and so in the paving. So we can, as these examples show, you can do a lot of amazing things with paving patterns and things like that. So we'll put sort of each significant historic element will get its own historic marker in the paving. And these types of elements are great because maybe you don't notice it the first time or the second time you go across it, but it's that third or fourth time that you start to read the history. And it really keeps the park space fresh, it keeps the design timeless, and it keeps people engaged, whether they're doing it, visiting for the first time or going back for their millionth time. So this is a really nice subtle touch. And so this is a schematic of how we might do that. You can see the delineations in the paving. So it's basically becoming a timeline from out near the sundial on the north side. We'll maybe have the settlement of Wilmington by the early Spanish explorers. And then we'll go all the way through, Banning's Landing, history of Banning, all the way out to modern day at the end when you're looking out at the ocean and the grand blue horizon. Now, the next feature I'd like to talk about is the Great Lawn. So based on input from you, we asked you about what kind of space uses you'd like. If you recall, we talked about active spaces and passive spaces. The Great Lawn is a place to do a little bit of both. We're all familiar with great parks that have great lawns like this. So you can sit under a tree and enjoy the shade, or you can bring all your friends and throw a Frisbee around, or you can just have a nice quiet picnic. This would be the spot to do it. Adjacent to the Great Lawn is sport and fitness area. This is kind of the area we're designating for more of the more focused active space. So that would be things like exercise equipment, any types of sports or exercise facilities would all be kind of focused into one area. In general, people that are more interested in active uses want to congregate into one focused space anyway, and that leaves other places in the park where we can do a variety of different things. Back to the map, and the next one is outdoor classroom. So another element that you guys told us you would like is places for learning. So this is an outdoor classroom, so this is an open air type space, kind of like an amphitheater or benches in a semicircle with a stage type of a thing. So this could be great for a really focused classroom setting. So maybe kids take a field trip and their classroom comes here to learn some things before they go out to the waterfront to look at ships. Or it could also be a really impromptu thing. Maybe it's just you and your kids, and my daughter loves to sing. She'd get up on stage and yell her little 2-year-old heart out. Well, hopefully not too many people watch. Right across the promenade from that, we have a really nice native plant garden there. The goal for the project is to integrate throughout the design as much native and drought-tolerant plants as possible. But this is an area where we can really celebrate and highlight those local plants. And so it could look something like this. There's a lot of really great indigenous species that our landscape architect Yunsu is really excited to put in there. At the park at large, here's a quick overview of some of the plants that we're looking at. Here's kind of your medium scale sizes with some berries and some flowering shrubs and things like that. On the smaller scale, we have some really nice native grasses, perennials, lots of nice flowers to add color, but also to add a lot of great biodiversity to the project. Get your butterflies and your birds revitalizing the area as well. It's not just people that can enjoy the park, right? And then on the bigger side of things, a wide array of trees, not just your classic LA palm tree, but a good variety of oaks and sycamores and laurels and some bright, vibrant red buds, things like that, to really provide a variety of sizes and scales, but also a variety of spaces. You know, you can see a nice axis with palm trees, but you can really enjoy the shade underneath a nice oak tree. So really the goal here is variety, and I think we're capturing it. So with that, I'd like to share a few quick 3D schematics that we've developed of the overall view of the park. Here you can see we have Harry Bridges Boulevard on the left to the north, the sundial, our grand promenade out to the bridge. Behind the sundial, we carry the axis of the history walk. Along Harry Bridges, we have an alley of trees, which provides a nice buffer back from the busy street, as well as providing a really nice shaded axial boulevard. At the front, we have space for kind of temporary mixed-use space, so pop-up markets and things like that. You can see here we have a few market stalls thrown in. We have our parking that we mentioned, drop-off roundabouts, the Great Lawn, native grass, or native plant area, outdoor classroom, exercise and fitness area, and then you can see snaking through the whole thing is a really nice mixture of pathways and connections. And it should be also noted there is we have to, the end goal of this site is to get up and over the railroad tracks, right? So we do have a very subtle sloping of the project that will take you kind of seamlessly up and over the bridge, which these pathways do a really good job of kind of bringing that scale down and kind of hiding that elevation change. You're never going to feel like you're going up a steep hill or anything like that. And really the railroad tracks might sort of catch you off guard that you're already on top of them. You might not notice them at all unless you're looking for them. It should be a real seamless connection from one park to the bridge to the next park. So here's another view looking down that promenade with the water out in the background. This is the history walk. You can see a small note there are these red light poles. That red light fixture idea is kind of hinting at the previous waterfront parks. The one you have currently has really beautiful, iconic red light poles. These are a little bit different for a different park, but still carrying that same iconography and letting people know that they're kind of in the same community from one place to the next. Here we are on the promenade. You can see it's nice and wide, lots of space for people to go in both directions, at different speeds, slow and fast, bikes and kids. A nice peaceful place in the native plant garden. So amongst all the hustle and bustle of the promenade, you could maybe hop over and find some quiet space to yourself to read a book, look at some butterflies. Now we're maybe at the end of the history walk, looking back towards Wilmington. You can see that the sundial creates a really nice beacon at the end of the axis that then Avalon Boulevard continues back beyond that. Here we have a little video showing a quick fly-through. So we're starting at the south and we're flying east. We'll go to the north. Kind of hovering above Harry Bridges, looking back. There's the history walk and the Great Lawn. Native plant garden. So we follow the promenade back out to the bridge. Here we'll cross the bridge starting from the south, so basically as you're coming back from the water maybe. long day of kayaking. Now we speed things up. Maybe you hopped on your bike here. Wrap around back to the front at the entry monument at sundown. All right, there we go. And so with that, I pass it back over to Hugo, and I look forward to speaking with you all at the back of the room and chatting with you about the design. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Noel. So again, you can see there was a lot of components that we went over. We got a lot of feedback. Again, thank you very much for all the feedback. You know, we're very happy to see an active community. Happy to see, you know, hundreds of comments, hundreds of surveys submitted. So we're very thankful for that. So the next steps, now that we have this concept, now that this is developed, now we start our design. So all this, since starting back in June, all the feedback kind of got us to this starting point for our design. So we hope to start design immediately, starting off with this as a concept and moving forward with our design and starting construction in fall of 2019. That's our plan for the project. So we're excited about moving forward. We're happy with the feedback, and we look forward to more involvement and for a great project. Thank you, everybody.